In a cozy little home nestled in a quiet village, there lived a family of mice. They were a cheerful, bustling bunch, always scurrying around the big grain jar in the pantry. But what they loved most of all was to chat. They'd gossip and tell stories from sunrise to sunset. Sharing the same cozy corner was a cat, a creature of silence and cunning. This cat was clever, very clever indeed, and he had one goal: to have a mouse for dinner. The cat was the master of patience. Day after day, he would hide in the shadows of the pantry, his eyes gleaming, watching the mice. He'd crouch low, tail twitching ever so slightly, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. But the mice were always one step ahead. Their constant chatter served as an accidental alarm system. One would spot the cat's shadow, another the twitch of his ear, and with a chorus of squeaks, they would scatter, disappearing into the tiny cracks in the wall long before the cat could make his move. The cat grew frustrated. Their noise, which should have made them easy targets, was somehow their greatest defense. He realized a direct approach was useless. He needed a new plan, a plan that would turn their greatest strength into their fatal weakness. Among the mouse family, there was one elder, a wise old mouse with fur as gray as a storm cloud. He had seen many cats come and go, and knew the dangers of the world outside their little hideaway. "Hush, now," he would often whisper to the younger ones, his voice a dry rustle. "Keep your voices down. The walls have ears, and so does the cat." He'd point his twitching nose towards the pantry door. "When he's near, silence is our shield. Your stories can wait." But the young mice, full of life and bursting with tales to tell, found this advice terribly dull. One particularly bold young mouse would puff out his chest and declare, "But our stories are important. They must be told. What's the point of an adventure if you can't share it with everyone? Silence is just so boring." And his siblings would all squeak in agreement, their little voices rising in a wave of cheerful defiance, completely unaware of the patient predator listening just around the corner. The cat, overhearing their conversations day after day, finally devised his master plan. He noticed that their chattering was loudest when they found a new treat: a fallen crumb of cheese, a stray oat, or a dropped sunflower seed. Their excitement would bubble over, and all caution would be thrown to the wind. So, the cat set a trap, but not a normal one made of wood and wire. His trap was made of temptation. He found a large, delectable chunk of cheese and placed it right in the middle of the kitchen floor, far from any of their usual escape routes. Then, he didn't hide in the pantry. Instead, he positioned himself behind a large flour sack on the opposite side of the room, a place they'd never expect. He made himself seem far away, almost disinterested. He knew their excitement, and their need to narrate their discovery would be their downfall. He just had to wait for the show to begin. It wasn't long before the young talkative mouse discovered the cheese. "Look! Look what I've found!" he shrieked, his voice echoing in the quiet kitchen. "The greatest treasure in the history of mice." Immediately, his siblings came scurrying from their hiding places, their eyes wide with delight. They gathered around the cheese, chattering and squealing with joy. "I saw it first," one cried. "No, I smelled it from the pantry," another boasted. They pushed and shoved, each wanting to tell their version of the grand discovery. They were so engrossed in their own noise, so caught up in their storytelling and excitement, that they completely forgot the elder's warning. They didn't scan the shadows. They didn't listen for the soft padding of paws. They were lost in a world of their own making, oblivious to the silent golden eyes watching them from behind the flour sack. In that moment of total distraction, the cat pounced. He moved like a silent shadow, a blur of fur and claws. Before the mice could even register the danger, he was upon them. The happy squeals turned into shrieks of terror. But it was too late. The chatty, boisterous mice, who had been so full of stories just moments before, were caught. The kitchen fell silent, the only sound being the triumphant purr of the clever cat. But not all were lost. The wise elder mouse, who had stayed behind in the safety of the wall, had listened. He had heard the rising crescendo of excited squeaks and had known it was a prelude to disaster. He hadn't joined the celebration because he valued caution over momentary thrill. Now, from the safety of his nook, he watched the tragic scene unfold, his heart heavy. He was the only one left, the sole survivor, free to carry the terrible lesson to any who would listen. Later, when other mice from neighboring nests crept into the kitchen, drawn by the unusual silence, they found the elder mouse waiting. His face was solemn, his whiskers drooping with sadness. He gathered them close, and in a low, somber whisper, he told them the story. "Words are a powerful gift," he said, his voice heavy with grief. "They can build friendships and share joy, but they can also be a beacon for danger." He looked at each of their faces, ensuring they understood the weight of his message. Our family was lost, not to the cat's speed, but to their own carelessness. They forgot that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to be silent. Sometimes silence is the only thing that will keep you safe. And so, the story of the talkative mice became a legend in the little village home, a cautionary tale whispered from one generation of mice to the next. The moral of this story is a simple but profound one. In a world that is often full of noise and hidden dangers, true wisdom isn't about having the most to say. It's about knowing when to speak, and more importantly, when to listen and be silent. Silence and awareness can be a far greater protection than careless words and boasts ever will be.